Okay, like which of these have we seen? Okay, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is amazing, and the interesting thing with that is the 2003 series is so good too, and I feel like that one's become kind of underrated when you think about it. Like it was made early on in the manga before that was even close to being finished, so they kind of had to extrapolate and just pull shit out of their ass to try to string together a full story, even though it wasn't done yet in the source material. So that's the advantage the Brotherhood had. But Brotherhood has one fatal flaw that maybe people don't realize. It'll have a lot of these serious, tonally strong moments, and then it'll break it up with humor. And they do that over and over way too many times. They don't need to do that. Sometimes you just need to let that serious moment sit and simmer, and that's what the 2003 one did a lot better. The 2003 series has a much better tone to it, and it has a much better beginning to it because it sort of takes its time, and I don't know, like a lot of the same scenes are just better there, whereas in Brotherhood they sort of rush it at the beginning because they feel like, we've already seen this in the first one, and that's a bad philosophy to go in with, and I guess they have more ground to cover too. But no, the tone of the first series was much better, despite the obviously the story and the content of the second one being better because it was completed in terms of the source material. But I almost just wish they had had that. Code Geass is very good. Code Geass I'll hold. Wait, what had happened to it? Like, let's see, which ones haven't we seen? Probably most of them. I haven't seen Naruto, and I won't even count if I've. Oh, Darker Than Black is one of my favorites, though. That might be a controversial one to put that high, but this is like the Yojimbo effect. If you've seen the Kurosawa movies, you might understand that's like there's like this build up, and then there's like action that's very like short and fast paced and like to the point, and it's like very high stakes. So like there's so many moments in that with game theory. Like there's one of the coolest moments in all of fiction history where it genuinely, like, as a viewer, I could not figure out what was going to happen there. I guess it's a spoiler for it, but it's fine. Like, it's an old series. Like, the guy, one of the characters has a power where, like, she causes stuff to explode or whatever, right? Like, her voice, she's like an opera singer or some shit, and she causes, like, the buildings to crumble with that or whatever she can do. So she causes him to have a heart attack there, and his power happens to be electricity that we already know, and so he shocks his own heart in that moment, and it's like, it's such a quick thing, but, like, it was so unbelievable, because you would never think that. That didn't even remotely occur to me, and it's like, oh, he's dead. He just fucking he's having a heart attack and he's just dead. There's nothing he can do. So to convince you of that is so good. But no, it has like these very awesome, quick to the point, high state. It's like the opposite of Dragon Ball Z, where they drag out the fights for fucking ever, which has its own advantages too. To be fair, now I'm gonna get banned for showing Inception or something here, even though I'm not really wanting to do it, and I don't really believe in ad block. Speaking of flaws with notable series, like even Nolan's action direction was not really the best. Even if you want to hide behind, oh, it's realistic, and even as much as I obviously like Nolan, it's like there's still a way to do it realistically that maybe would have been more convincing than that. Yeah, they're like very fast paced, to the point, high stakes, all or nothing kind of fights where it feels almost realistic in that sense that like either you're going to kill them or you're going to die, and it's going to happen very quickly and very efficiently. There's no bullshitting around for like 20 minutes. None of those fights last like long at all. I'm assuming this is Dragon Ball Z. I mean, what else could it be? But I don't know. See, this always gets credit for animation, and it's hard not to give that an S because of its impact, but I'll actually give it an A because it kind of is caught in between like so many good things and so many bad things. The animation for the time was obviously revolutionary. The characters are very well done for the most part. The story is okay. I mean, it's an action series, so I can't hold it against it that, oh, it's too much action, but it does have some pacing issues and things like that, even if I like it. What's ironic is I actually kind of like GT's pacing a lot. So when people talk about Kai, which was the kind of, it was them trying to kind of shorten and make it like more sort of streamlined Dragon Ball Z, it's almost like GT showed you what that should have been like because it covers so much ground. Even if you don't like the content in GT, which a lot of people shit on and think is terrible, it's probably at least better than Super, although I've never seen Super either. But no, can I fucking get rid of this, dude? The point is that you're basically in a position where you feel like, what do you call it? But like you're streamlining. You go through Android 17 and the Shadow Dragons and all this kind of random stuff, right? But it's doing it quickly. It doesn't drag out any of these fights for like 20 episodes or something like that. So it at least had the right idea in terms of pacing. Some of these I can barely even see what the fuck they're supposed to be. I haven't done one of these kind of tier lists or something in a while, but yeah, I've seen very few of them. I think that's Black Butler. I just know the name of some of these. Hunter x Hunter. Yeah, see, there is so much React content online that you see of stuff like this. Like a lot of these series are kind of hot for that, and it almost incentivizes something weird. Like people will build up their channel and react to all these kind of things, and even show the full episode and video and stuff. And I get that that's popular, and people aren't really watching it necessarily to see the stuff for free. They've probably already seen it, but they want to live vicariously and see, not have to watch along and not worry about that. But the point is that they'll build up their channel and build up a following, and then even if they do get in trouble and get banned, it was still kind of worth it to them because now they've already established themselves and they'll find some other way to do it. And I thought we already saw Code Geass. I'm not gonna like do it by season, like it's just Code Geass is the thing. So this is the definition of an A, and the reason why is because it kind of falls short of like, it's a series that seems very good at first glance, and it is very good, but it's like, it falls short of truly being what it could have been, because a lot of it is just like sort of window dressing. A good example is a lot of it, like the crazy plan moments, like, oh, Zero's so smart and Lelouch is so smart, and so he has all these plans. It often just comes down to he's losing a battle, and then he has like some special button that he presses or some switch or preparation that he made that causes like some environmental thing to happen, like the buildings collapse or some whatever avalanche happens or something that he caused to happen that way, like the fucking volcano erupts. Like it's almost like a Deus Ex Machina. You can give him credit that he's always so, always mind your surroundings. Speaking of Christopher Nolan, the fucking line from Batman Begins, like he's very aware of that and good at that, but it's almost just window dressing. Like the final fight between Scheisel and Lelouch is kind of like that. They're both just sitting there saying, do this, prep for anti-air combat, move the nightmare here. It's like none of it's with any context that makes you really appreciate it. It's just sort of there. It's almost like how chess is shown in the Queen's Gambit, like where it's just shown for the sake of being shown, but it's not like there's nothing that audience can appreciate. And you might say, oh, you have to be really knowledgeable, but nobody would ever argue that from a writing standpoint. Pretend it's a game that doesn't really exist, and you're just kind of appreciating it in the context of the story. So you would go into a game, and you'd already have some pre-established storyline, like, oh, this guy's really good with knights. So then when you see him use the knight, then she's kind of nervous, and now you got to counter that, and you got to trade it off, and if you do that, she's going to have an advantage. So it has nothing to do with the game itself. It just has to do with the story that you're trying to tell with it. So you go in with something, but they didn't make any effort to do that. So I'll put Queen's Gambit at a fucking F, even though that's not part of the anime thing here. I thought that was a real disappointment. Basketball thing, I don't know what that is. Yeah, the vast majority of these I haven't seen. And what's interesting is the one that I have seen, I've probably seen like multiple times. Let's see. Is the 2003 FMA going to be here? Steins Gate. There's some Steins Gate game that I had on it. Okay, so we're not going to separate those. That's the same thing. It's just like season 1, season 2. Yeah, I like how random these sessions are. Like, I just don't have any plan going in, which I almost should try to create a plan. Like, maybe I'll read through some shit, but I won't show it. So then I'll act like I'm just coming up with it on the fly. So I think most of this I haven't seen, or I really can't even tell what they are. Like, you're supposed to be such an expert on these that you would know just by looking at this little minimized picture that's not even written in English, that I'm somehow just supposed to know what it is. Now, Spirited Away is a fucking movie, not a series, but I always thought this was kind of overrated in a way. Like, Grave of the Fireflies, for example, is far better, which maybe I even skipped it over and I can't even tell based on these pictures, but I think it was just because, oh, it's one that caught the Western market's attention, and, in and of itself, it's just kind of okay, but there are better ones out there. So maybe it just gets credit for the animation, or maybe it gets credit for the sort of somehow universal appeal that made it appeal to the Western market and things like that. But there are far better examples of the same sort of thing if you're really looking for it. I feel like some of these are missing. Death Note is very close. I mean, it's got to be an S, but the thing about it is that basically you're in a position where season 2 hurts it a little bit. It doesn't hurt it as much as like, I don't know. I feel like the ending of Code Geass maybe hurts that more because the whole thing with like how the Emperor dies is such a bullshit thing. Like he's the main villain of the series basically up to that point. And even though Schneisel is kind of a good final twist sort of villain, it just wasn't. There was nothing really behind that. This is like one of those all-time unconvincing villain defeats though that everybody shits on, and I feel like over time I've sort of softened my opinion on it where I don't mind it quite as much because like at least they qualified in this sense. Like maybe some people misinterpret it. They think, oh, Nier beats Light, and if that was the case, then L should have beaten him. But they even say in both the manga and the anime that that's not the case, right? Nier even says himself that, oh, it was because of Mello, and Mello helped me. So basically, the whole point of season 2 is, oh, it's the teamwork, even if that's cheesy, like, oh, Nier and Mello working together is better than L, so therefore they're able to beat Light. Like, to do a whole season just to get that point across is kind of stupid, right? And to rely on that, but at least they justify, like, okay, the combined efforts of those two is enough to beat Light, so I can accept it that way, even if the exact plan that they do is not entirely convincing. But, yeah, like Red John from The Mentalist is kind of the same thing, where it's just unconvincing how it happens. And I hate to see fans try to defend that because they're so invested in the series, but I'm sure some of these maybe I have seen, I just can't tell from the picture what they are, so this is the casual nature. But also the 2003 FMA would probably go somewhere around here as well. And the one that people would probably disagree with is Darker Than Black being that high. And season 2 of Darker Than Black kind of sucked, actually, where like he loses his powers. He does the old Metroid Prime thing.